We'll do a quick Conquest tutorial for very new players, specifically some of my close friends. Um, we'll just jump right into it. Uh, First thing you'll notice when you get into a normal Conquest game, you'll have people who will call the roles. There's 5 roles in the game. ADC, support, mid, solo, and jungle. People call these roles because that's their desired destination that they want to be played in the game. Probably their most optimal role. If people don't get the role they play, they generally try and call a secondary role. If that's already called, then they'll have to stick to the least played or not called role, which is generally support. People don't like support because it's not, you feel like you're not contributing to the team a lot. You're not doing damage. You're more for being a crowd controller. Um, just a lot more difficult for players because they don't know how to farm. So yeah, that's the basics of what this and what the role calling is. We're going to go ahead and jump into a custom Conquest game. Something generic. Something that doesn't push down lanes very fast. Sobek doesn't have very good lane clear. All right. We're going to go into very quickly the gods. We got 90 seconds to do this. We got gods that you can play in each role. Solo lane, you'll have your guardians and your warriors. The most prominent warriors being Achilles, Bellona, Cuchulainn, Guan Yu, Hercules, and Odin. Generally, though, my hand here. Generally, any god in this tree, you could play that role efficiently. Okay. And then your guardians, you have Sobek, Athena, Ardeo, Cerberus, and Terra. Yeah, that could work. That's for solo. Mid is for any mage. Very simple, very self-explanatory. Any mage because of the high burst. Duo lane is going to have your hunters paired with a guardian. You can have 2 guardians on the same team or 2 assassins or 5 assassins. It doesn't matter. And then jungle is going to be for your assassins. Okay. And we're going to go into kind of hybrid, like different classes can go here while we get in the game because we don't have a lot of time. We're going to go with a guy with a lot of mobility that can get around the map very fast.
I dwell among the shadows.
Okay, is an assassin. Generally played in the jungle because you got to understand the kind of concepts of what the god's capable of. Serket is not capable of clearing a wave very efficiently and very quickly. So if she was to be in a lane, she's going to be killed pretty easily, and you just fall behind, and it's not fun for anybody. You're just not going to have a fun time. Okay.
You may call poison a woman's weapon,
All right.
but it's only one of mine.
So we called the specific roles that can go in the specific places when we started the game. Solo lane is going to look like this. It's going to have the blue buff right here, and it's going to be the shorter lane. Okay. So you'll have like not very much space coming from here to here because one person's only supposed to be in this lane. If 2 people are in this lane, it's because they don't know meta or it's a bunch of new players. 2 players never go in this lane. And then, like I said, it's filled with the warrior role or potentially some guardians. Okay, shorter lane. You know, you can see here, purple buff, longer lane. This tower is above this tower. Pretty self-explanatory. Then you have mid lane. You're going to be a mage here, generally. You're going to be farming by yourself up until the duo lane guardian starts roaming. And you're going to just rely on farming as efficiently as possible so that you as a mage, who is a burst character, mages are burst characters in this game, to deal the most amount of damage so that you can be efficient for your team. Okay? So that's the mid lane. Duo lane is going to be filled with guardians. Okay, duo lane again is the purple buff side. The longer lane, towers above here. Okay, it's going to be filled with guardians, or it's going to be filled with hunters. Okay, Other characters can go here in different roles, but we're going to stick to meta and say that Guardians and Hunters are the meta pair. It's what the Europeans are doing very, very well with. Anything I list, so um, Europeans are being the #1 region in Smite. And you kind of just want to stick with it because doing meta is always a safe bet, but early on as new players, it's not a bad idea for you to play anything you want because you're just trying to have fun. No players just want to play meta unless you enjoy that character. But if you enjoy that character thoroughly, I think personally you should play whatever role that character is efficient in. So an assassin should be played in the jungle. Haven't covered a jungle yet. Assassin should be played in the jungle. Warriors and some Guardians should be played in the duo lane. You can test out any Guardian you want in the duo lane, but if you see that it just doesn't work or you don't know how to do it, Guardian's probably not going to be efficient here. The mages will generally go here. So if you play a mage and you like a mage, let's go ahead and put the mage in the mid lane. And then, of course, Hunters and Guardians will go here. If you like a Hunter and you like auto-attacking things, play a Hunter in the duo lane. It's just going to make your team, your game go a lot smoother. And then, as covered before, Assassins come and they farm the jungle. Okay, so we're going to go into, of course, the secondary things that can be played in everywhere. After the Warrior played here, Mage played here, Hunter and Guardian played here, Assassin played here. As listed before, you can play a Guardian here generally. Mid, you can play a Hunter that deals physical damage in the forms of abilities. So we're just going to level our abilities. As you know, and as you've played, characters have 1, 2, 3, 4 abilities. There are some Hunters in the game that deal a lot more damage when it comes to casting. They'll be casting their abilities. They do more damage than if they just sit there and auto attack. So the characters that are generally be good with that, who are good at casting instead of auto attacking, are Apollo, Uller, Medusa, Scotty, Chiron, and Chiron rather, and Neith. Okay, those characters excel a lot more at casting rather than just sitting there and auto attacking something down. Okay, that's why you play some Hunters. Not very meta. Some Hunters, North America plays Hunters in the mid lane. Okay, and then of course you have dual lane. You can have potentially magical damage carries in the Hunter role, and you can have Warriors in the Guardian role. So Warriors can be interchanged between solo and duo lane. Guardians can be interchanged here, and Guardians can go here. Warriors can go here. Vice versa. You know what I mean. You get the point. Okay. When I say magical carries, I mean gods that deal magical damage in range whenever they attack things. All magical gods will have ranged basic attacks, but some gods in the game will deal ranged basic attacks as their primary amount of damage. How will you know that? Well, because their abilities are focused around steroids, which are buffs to yourself that deal enhanced things to your basic attacks like bonus damage, bigger AoEs for your auto attacks, just make things like more pleasant for you when it comes to actually auto attacking things. So it's like, you have your magical ranged and then you have your physical casters. That's kind of how it works. But if you want to your safe bet, just play those roles, those characters in those roles, the classes in those roles rather. And then of course you can have mages and in the
your left tower is under attack.
Jungle role because of their high potential burst, and some mages have really good mobility. Okay. So we're going to go ahead into the laning phase. If you remember, solo lane is the shorter lane, as repeated again. When the game starts, you have minions will start here at 0 seconds. So you'll start in the base, of course, like the other team does. You'll build your build. You might have auto build on, you might not. As you learn the game more, you want to turn it off because you want to learn counter building. That's a completely different topic that would take a long time to explain. We're just going over the basic concepts of Conquest. So at 0 seconds, the game will start. Generally, you'll have about 30 seconds to purchase items. Solo lane will always start in their tower,
Your
and
left
then they'll wait
tower
for the
is
waves
under
to come up,
attack.
and then they'll kind of just like duke it out with the other solo laner, the enemy team, or they'll focus on just farming, and uh, they'll start rotating. Rotating being moving away from solo lane to everywhere else on the map after they kill their first tower. Um, that's the general rule of thumb. If you can't get their tower by the time like 19 minutes happens, 19 minutes is when generally the mid game, well, I'd say about more like 16 minutes is when the mid game starts. Then you just start roaming. But once you get a tower, you generally want to rotate. Solo lane's kind of boring. You just sit there, you just like slap fight the other warrior. If they're good and you're good, you're probably not going to be able to kill anything. It's not as enjoyable for me because you're both usually tanky characters. Uh, very boring lane. Nothing really comes out of it. The thing about solo lane, you don't, like I said, you don't rotate. If like a fight's happening in mid and you have a tower, like, you know, minions pushed up all the way and they're like attacking tower, you might want to rotate. But generally, solo will not ever help the enemy, help the team until you actually accomplish getting this, or it's like mid game and you know you can't get this, then you should go help your team out. Okay. Mage will start at speed buff.
Your
Flash
left
I'm
tower
going to try and get
is
there real
under
fast.
attack.
We'll start speed buff at 23 seconds. The speed buff will spawn. You'll start it with the jungler. You guys will literally clear this as fast as you can,
Nowhere to run.
and then you'll go to lane. So you'll come here at 23 seconds, and then you'll go to lane. Some junglers, depending on the player, will not want you to help with speed buff. And if they say don't help with speed or go to lane, just go to lane. Those are just two different starts that the mid laner will start at. Okay, and then you have dual lane. Dual lane's the same thing as solo lane. You'll literally start in your tower or at the tower line. You don't really want to
Your
fight
right
early
tower
on.
is under attack.
It's pointless to fight early on. You're just going to get poked out because if they want to fight you, generally they might be better players. If you're very confident in your ability, sure, go ahead and like stand and just kind of fight things outside of tower. But you generally want to start in tower, wait till the minions come up, and then you want to just go up and clear the minions and fight the enemy duo lane.
Your left tower is under
And then
attack.
you kind of go from there. The reason why two players are here in the duo lane instead of in the solo lane, like why isn't a hunter and a warrior in the solo
middle
and in the
tower
duo
is
lane,
under attack.
is because the gold fury, if you kill it, it grants you a large amount of gold, is on this side of the map. So if you happen to have two players over here and one over here, it's a lot harder to protect that because two players can easily protect this more than one player can. And it's very, very important and vital for you to protect this objective because the more you take this, the more the enemy team will, or your team, the more your team will get ahead, or the more the enemy team will get ahead. And it just makes it a lot harder for you to win, or it makes it a lot easier for you to win. Pretty self-explanatory. So the hunter and the guardian will both start in this lane when the game starts. Okay, and then you of course have the jungler, as kind of covered before. The jungler will always start at the speed buff, and then they'll move on from there. So as repeated in the pre-game lobby, as you have players that call roles, you'll have jungle that starts at speed buff. You'll have solo lane that starts in the solo. You have duo lane that starts in the duo lane. And then you have the mid laner, which will start at speed buff with you and then go to lane. Okay? That's the general basics of that. Now, we have, very quickly, we'll cover early game, mid game, and late game. Okay? Early game is focused on leveling up. You want to make sure you're farming as efficiently as possible. So whenever you're not here attacking things, you want to make sure that you're attacking buffs because, I mean, buffs are up all the time. There's no reason not, for you not to do buffs. It's not just a jungler's job to clear the jungle. Whenever you're not clearing waves, you want to do buffs. You just want to farm as efficiently as possible. Just leveling up, pretty self-explanatory. The early game will generally end about 13, 14 minutes. And then from there, you'll have the mid game from 14 to about, I'd say 19 to 21 minutes. And then you start having the late game a little bit after that. And then the true late game to where everyone's full build is going to be at the about the 27-minute mark. Mid-game is for objectives and skirmishing. So you'll have little tiny team fights here and there. You'll have the mid and the jungler coming over and attacking this lane, or you'll have the guardian or hunter rotating and attacking this lane. Generally solo is solo. No one really touches solo besides the solo laner, so don't go and touch the solo lane if you're solo, unless you're a solo laner. You know, you'll just kind of just slap fight around, and then whenever you start killing things or you kill the enemy skirmishing team that's kind of fighting you, and you win, then you'll start taking objectives. So if I kill the mid laner in the duo lane, then I'm going to go ahead and try and take this tower, or I'm going to go ahead and try and take this gold fury. Like I said, the gold fury is very important because it gives you gold bonuses, so do towers. So you kill things, you take towers, that's the mid game. Late game is all about team fights, 5-man team fights. The whole team is going to be together fighting. You'll be fighting for trying to end the game. So if you kill all 5 of them and then all 5 of you are still alive and there's no towers alive, generally you will still be able, you'll try and end the game. Or you'll take Fire Giant, which is a very, very, very powerful buff that makes you very strong. And people value Fire Giant sometimes over ending the game because it's a safe route. Like I said, late games for trying to end the game, for Fire Giant, and for team fights for all 5 of you as players to try and end the game. Okay. We won't go into, we'll kind of go into what the roles do, like jungle. I didn't really explain as much. Jungle's purpose is to gank the lanes. Ganking being ambushing, so they'll farm things and say they clear this purple buff and the enemy duo lane is here. They'll come in and they'll kind of just ambush them and try and kill them. And the more you kill the enemy team, the less XP they're going to be trying to get or able to get, because when you die, you don't get any XP, and then you'll just be able to be more ahead. This is a general explanation of that. Okay.
Phoenix is under attack.
Very basic conquest concepts. Real fast are the buffs come up every 2 minutes. I think these come up every 45 seconds. Mid-camp buffs will come up every 90 seconds. No. Mid-camp buffs come up every 75 seconds, I think. The more you kill towers, so right now if I go to attack the Titan right now, it's going to have like something like 15,000 HP. And more defense. The more towers you kill, the easier it is going to kill this thing. You can't attack the Titan unless the Phoenixes die. Pretty self-explanatory. And you also can't see enemy players unless they're on your objective or they walk on a ward. Wards give vision.
I have not the time to brew
You see this blue thing around your character. Wards give vision. So if the way that you protect yourself against ambushes is if you ward. Warding is always good. Always remember to buy wards. It should be a habit. It should be an early habit that you have as an early player. If you get this concept down very, very quickly and very, very early, and you just keep it repetitive, you're going to have an easier time playing Smite because you're not going to die as often, because you won't get killed unexpectedly by players that just don't appear on the map. Okay, so if I place a ward here and a player walks over it, I'm going to see them before they're able to come into lane and attack me. Okay. I think that covers the basics of the game. Oh yeah, this buff right here, it's Pyromancer.
Your right tower is under attack.
It's kind of weak.
Your
Doesn't
right
do
tower
anything
has
but
been
gives you a
destroyed.
huge amount of
Your
speed
left
buff
Phoenix
coming
is
out of the
under
base.
attack.
That's it. But once you attack a player, the speed buff goes away. And then we'll go over real quick what the buff camps do. Speed buff gives you speed. Mana buff gives you mana regeneration. And then red buff gives you power. And purple buff gives you protection debuff, so it makes you hit harder. Your abilities hit harder because if they're building defense, you're not going to be hitting your abilities as hard. And then real fast, we'll cover. You have your physical items. You'll have your penetration tree, and then you'll have your. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory over here. You'll see whatever you need. It's here. You'll have to look up diminishing returns and caps of things because I don't have enough time to explain that. That's the basics of Conquest, I think. I don't think there's anything else I could really tell you other than, I don't know. I actually think that's it. I hope you do kind of enjoy and understand a little bit better on where players are supposed to go. Like I said, support's going to be the least popular role. Generally, jungle and mid are going to be the most popular. The support's job is going to be protecting the carries. The warrior's job in the solo lane is going to be to harass the enemy backline. The jungler is going to be to kill the carries. The kill the carries means try their very, very hardest to kill the mid lane and the hunter and then the other assassin. And then the hunter's job is to deal a lot of damage to objectives and the front line. And the mage's purpose is to burst and just do a bunch of damage in general. Okay? I think that's it. Any questions? Feel free to ask me. I hope things are understood. Have a good day.